Okay, continuing on.
The Citadel is an ancient deep space station, presumably constructed by the Protheans. Since the Prothean extinction, numerous species have come to call the Citadel home. It serves as the political, cultural, and financial capital of the galactic community. To represent their interests, most species maintain embassies on the Presidium, the Citadel's inner ring. The Citadel Tower in the center of the Presidium holds the Citadel Council Chambers. Council affairs often have far-reaching effects on the rest of the galactic community. 5 arms, known as the wards, extend from the Presidium. Their inner surfaces have been built into cities, populated by millions of inhabitants from across the galaxy. The Citadel is virtually indestructible. If attacked, the station can close its arms to form a solid, impregnable shell. For as long as the station has existed, an enigmatic race called the Keepers has maintained it. Spectres are agents from the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance, and answer only to the Citadel Council. They are elite military operatives, granted the authority to deal with threats to peace and stability in whatever way they deem necessary. They operate independently or in groups of 2 or 3. Some are empathetic peacekeepers, resolving disputes through diplomacy. Others are cold-blooded assassins, ruthlessly dispatching problem individuals. All get the job done one way or another, often operating outside the bounds of galactic law. The Spectres were founded after the Solarians joined the Council. For many years they operated in secrecy as backroom problem solvers. Only after the Krogan rebellions did their activities become publicized. Assignment of a Spectre is less contentious than a military deployment, but makes it clear that the Council is concerned about a situation.
In 2183, a rogue Spectre named Saren Arterius attacked the Citadel through a functioning mass relay hidden inside a statue in the Presidium. Saren brought a combined force of Krogan and Geth infantry from Ilos, timing the attack so that he could be at the Citadel's controls when the Geth fleet and its flagship Sovereign arrived. In the battle that followed, the Destiny Ascension dreadnought evacuated the Citadel Council, but ordered the ward's arms closed, sealing them and the Geth inside an impregnable shell, cutting off any reinforcements or escape. This combative tactic would have wholly destroyed the Council fleet were it not for the actions of Commander Shepard, who had followed Saren through the relay from Ilos. Led by Shepard's ship Normandy, the Systems Alliance 5th Fleet assembled under the command of Admiral Hackett and waited just outside the Citadel's closed arms. Meanwhile, Shepard fought Saren's forces inside the Citadel and eventually forced the ward arms open again. The Normandy defended the Destiny Ascension as it fled, saving the lives of the Citadel Council. Taking its cue from the Normandy, the 5th Fleet supported the withdrawal and took heavy losses from Sovereign's advanced firepower. At about the same time, Shepard killed Saren, Sovereign's once impervious kinetic barrier overloaded, and the 5th Fleet focused its military might to shatter the flagship. The Geth fleet was soon decimated without its leader. In gratitude for the many human lives sacrificed to save it, the Council made the unprecedented move of offering humans the chance to become a Council race. Ambassador Donald Udina and Captain David Anderson accepted the honor on behalf of their species. These diplomatic talks occurred in the wake of the Krogan rebellions as a response to the destruction of the conflict and attempt to distance the Council from the brutal Krogan warfare. The conventions regulated the use of weapons of mass destruction. A WMD causes environmental alteration to a world. A bomb that produces a large crater is not considered a WMD. A bomb that causes a nuclear winter is. Use of WMD is forbidden on garden worlds like Earth, with ecospheres that can readily support a population. If a habitable world is destroyed, it will not be replaced for millions of years. The conventions do not forbid the use of WMD on hostile worlds or in sealed space station environments. Many militaries continued to develop and maintain stockpiles. The conventions graded weapons of mass destruction into tiers of concern. Tier 1 is the greatest threat to galactic peace. Large kinetic impactors such as asteroid drops or de-orbiting space stations, effectively free and available in any system, in the form of debris left over from the planetary accretion. Kinetic impactors are the weapon of choice for terrorists and third galaxy nations. Tier 2, uncontrolled self-replicating weapons such as nanotechnology, viral or bacteriological organisms, von Neumann devices, and destructive computer viruses. These weapons can lie dormant for millennia, waiting for a careless visitor to carry them on to another world. Tier 3, Large energy burst weapons, such as nuclear or antimatter warheads. Tier 4. Alien species deliberately introduced to crowd out native forms necessary for the health of an ecosystem. Ecological tampering can take years to bear fruit, making it difficult to prove. The Council is an executive committee composed of representatives from the Asari Republics, Turian hierarchy, and Solarian unions. Though they have no official power over the independent governments of the other species, the Council's decisions carry great weight throughout the galaxy. No single Council race is strong enough to defy the other two, and all have a vested interest in compromising cooperation. Each of the Council species has general characteristics associated with the various aspects of governing the galaxy. The Asari are typically seen as diplomats and mediators. The Solarians gather intelligence and information. The Turians provide the bulk of the military and peacekeeping forces. Any species granted an embassy on the Citadel is considered an associate member, bound by the Accords of the Citadel Conventions. Associate members may bring issues to the attention of the Council, though they have no input on the decision. The Human Systems Alliance became an associate member of the Citadel in 2165. Citadel space is an unofficial term referred to any region of space controlled by a species that acknowledges the authority of the Citadel Council. At first glance, it appears this territory encompasses most of the galaxy. In reality, however, less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Even Mass Effect FTL drive is slow relative to the volume of the galaxy. Empty space and systems without suitable drive discharge sites are barriers to exploration. Only the mass relays allow ships to jump hundreds of light years in an instant, the key to expanding across an otherwise impassable galaxy. Whenever a new relay is activated, the destination system is rapidly developed. From that hub, FTL drive is used to expand the nearby star clusters. The result is a number of densely developed clusters thinly spread across the vast expanse of space, connected by the mass relay network. Citadel Security is a volunteer police service answering to the Citadel Council. The 200,000 constables of CSEC are responsible for maintaining public order in the densely populated Citadel. They also provide pirate suppression, custom enforcement, and search and rescue throughout the Citadel cluster. CSEC has 6 divisions. Enforcement: uniformed officers who patrol the Citadel and respond to emergencies. Investigation: detectives who puzzle out the truth behind crimes and bring perpetrators to justice. Customs: screens the thousands of passengers and cargo containers that pass through the Citadel's ports every day. Network deals with cybercrimes like identity and copyright theft, hacking and viral attacks, and illegal artificial intelligence. Special Response deals with hostage situations, bombs, and heavily armed criminals. In the unlikely event that attackers board the Citadel, they are also the front line of defense, armed with military-grade equipment. Patrol: naval arm, with ships stationed throughout the Citadel cluster. Unlike the other divisions, they are rarely seen at the Citadel, nor do they stay in one place long. Joining CSEC is prestigious. Applications must be sponsored by a Citadel Counselor or the ambassador of an Associate Council race. Generally, applicants have many years of distinguished service in the military or police force of their nation, but an inexperienced applicant with demonstrable talent will be fairly considered. CSEC and the Spectres are often at odds. Many CSEC members, notably current executive Venari Palin, believe that allowing Spectres to be above the law is a dangerous practice. The actions of Saren Arterius lend credence to this position. The Spectres, in turn, are aggravated when CSEC dedication to procedure and due process hampers their investigations. The undersides of the wards, between the inhabited superstructure and impenetrable outer hull, are called the foundations. These dangerous areas are filled with life support systems and power plants. Officially, only the Keepers are allowed in the foundations. In reality, the foundations are the slums of the Citadel, home to criminals, minorities, transients, and occasional stateless exiles. Some stay in the foundations of their own will. Others end up there when the opportunities they sought in the Citadel do not come. The station's recycling systems are located in the foundations. These manufacture a variety of artificial organic pastes that can be eaten for substance. They are free and nutritious, and nearly tasteless and of unpleasant texture. Poorer Citadel residents quickly become adept at dressing up this bland flair with sauces and spices, while imported foodstuffs are a popular luxury of the wealthy. The ring is an enclosed loop of park-like space serving as the connection point for the wards. The interior walls are lined with the embassies of influential species and private residents of the galaxy's elite. The Presidium is full of open-air restaurants, bars, and luxurious meeting areas. Gravity is about 1/3 Earth normal. A holographic sky is projected over the ceiling of the ring. Unlike the 24/7 bustle of the wards, the Presidium maintains a 20-hour day cycle, with a 6-hour night where lights are dimmed and the sky goes through a night cycle. Offices and residents are often open to the interior. It's not unusual for embassies to have no exterior wall at all. This does not cause a crime problem due to the heavy CSEC presence and ubiquitous monitoring devices of the Presidium. Thieves are quickly identified and apprehended. The ring is the location of the Citadel's spaceports. Being close to the center of spin, there is less motion for a ship to match, and the reduced spin gravity makes handling cargo easier. Hundreds of ships pass through the Citadel every day, and every species with an embassy is granted a private dock. The tower at the center of the ring holds the administration of the Citadel Council. The tower rises over a kilometer from the ring, appearing to thrust forward parallel to the ward arms. As the tower is at the center of the spin axis, it experiences little centrifugal force. Gravity is maintained using mass effect fields at a 90-degree angle to the ring and the wards. A consular dock can be found at the base of the tower. While normally used for diplomatic couriers and spectre business, the shuttles docked here can evacuate the council government in an emergency. The Citadel is surrounded by a blue-tinted reflection nebula. The light of the nebula is actually light from the Citadel, scattered and reflected back at the station. At first, the Serpent Nebula was assumed to be made of microscopic construction debris. Prevailing theory holds that the Protheans used molecular nanotechnology to manufacture the incredibly durable materials used in the Citadel. But unlike other nebulae, the Serpent does not dissipate over time. Therefore, it must be replenished constantly. The current popular theory is that the non-recyclable waste collected by the Citadel's keepers is somehow rendered down to the atomic and molecular level, injected into the cloud. The thick nebula presents a navigational hazard. Beyond the relatively clear areas around the Citadel, electrical discharges are common. These are not blocked by kinetic barriers and can severely damage metal-framed starships. In addition, some dense knots of dust can overwhelm the repulsor of kinetic barriers on smaller ships. If such a vessel is moving fast enough at the time, the effects are similar to being hit by a sandblaster. Attempting to reach the Citadel through open space navigation is inadvisable. The only safe approach is through the various mass relays that orbit it. Although the Citadel is equipped with Mass Effect generating element 0 cores, most of the gravity on the station is generated by the centrifugal force of rotation, 3.5 minutes per revolution, 1.02 Earth gravity. These are all just blah blah blah. Population 13.2 million, not including keepers. The majority of the Citadel's population lives in the wards, the 5 massive arms of the station that house the residential and commercial districts. Many galactic races have established cultural enclaves here. Population density and cost of living are extremely high, akin to Earth cities such as Hong Kong and Singapore. The wards are open-topped with skyscrapers rising from the superstructure. Towers are sealed against vacuum as the breathable atmosphere envelope is only maintained to a height of about 7 meters. The atmosphere is contained by the centrifugal force of rotation in a membrane of dense, colorless sulfur hexafluoride gas held in place by carefully managed mass effect fields. The view from the wards is spectacular. In the background, stars, Serpent Nebula, and the nearby blue giant called the Widow move across the sky as the station rotates to stabilize itself. In the foreground, the lights of buildings and vehicles on the opposing ward arms perpetually shine. The Citadel has no real day or night. While the station keeps to standard galactic time for political functions, businesses rarely close, and residents acclimate to sleep and work according to personal need rather than a day-night cycle. Additions and modifications are constantly being constructed, though they must stay within certain specifications that will not compromise the operation of the station. Occasionally, the keepers will descend on an area of the wards and move or change the architecture without explanation. Residents have learned to live with these inexplicable intrusions. Due to the destructive potential of dreadnoughts, the Council races agreed to the Ferrickson Naval Conference to fix a ratio of dreadnought construction between themselves. At the top of the pyramid is the peacekeeping Turian fleet. Below the Turians are the other Council races, currently the Asari and Solarians. Council associate races are at the bottom. Human Systems Alliance is part of this last group. The ratio of Turian to Council to associate dreadnoughts is 5-3-1. For every dreadnought humans are permitted to build, the Asari have 3, and the Turians 5.
Immediately following the First Contact War, an anonymous extranet manifesto warned that an alien attempt at human genocide was inevitable. The manifesto called for an army, a Cerberus, to guard against invasion through the Charon Relay. Derided as survivalist rhetoric written by an Illusive Man, the manifesto and its anonymous author soon fell off the media radar. But in 2165, terrorists stole antimatter from the SSV Geneva. The sole figure arrested named his sponsor Cerberus. Throughout the 2160s and 2170s, alleged Cerberus agents assassinated politicians, sabotaged starships bearing EZO, and conducted nightmarish experiments on aliens and humans. Denounced as human supremacist, Cerberus calls itself human survivalist. Counter-terror experts speculate Cerberus may have changed leadership with its recent shift to stockpiling ships, agents, and weapons. Whether he, she, or they, the Illusive Man hides his finances hidden behind shell companies. Few doubt he will kill anyone attempting to expose him.
The homeworld and capital of humanity is entering a new golden age. The resource wealth of a dozen settled colonies and 100 industrial outposts flow back to Earth, fueling great works of industry, commerce, and art. The great cities are greening as arcology, skyscrapers, and telecommuting allow more efficient use of land. Earth is still divided among nation-states, though all are affiliated beneath the overarching banner of the Systems Alliance. While every human enjoys a longer and better life than ever, the gap between rich and poor widens daily. Advanced nations have eliminated most genetic disease and pollution. Less fortunate regions have not progressed beyond 20th century technology and are often smog-choked, overpopulated slums. Sea levels have risen 2 meters in the last 200 years, and violent weather is common due to environmental damage inflicted during the late 21st century. The past few decades, however, have seen significant improvement due to recent technological advances. Humanity's first contact with an alien race occurred in 2157. At that time, the Alliance allowed survey fleets to activate any dormant mass relays discovered, a practice considered dangerous and irresponsible by Council-aligned races. When a Turian patrol discovered a human fleet attempting to activate a relay, they attacked. One human vessel survived, retreating to the colony of Shangxi. The Turians followed, quickly defeating the local forces. Shangxi was occupied, the first, and to date only, human world to be conquered by an alien species. The Turians believed the handful of ships they defeated represented the bulk of human defenses, so they were unprepared when the Second Fleet under Admiral Kesteny Drescher launched a strong counteroffensive, evicting them from Shangxi. The Turians mobiled for full-scale war, drawing the attention of the rest of the galaxy. The Council quickly intervened, forcing a truce. Fortunately for humanity, the First Contact War was ended with a diplomatic solution. Gagarin Station is the largest deep space station built by humanity, a Bernal sphere design with a 500-meter diameter habitable area. It was constructed beyond Pluto, nearly 80 astronomical units, or 12 billion kilometers, from Sol. Moving crew and material to this location bankrupted most of the backers. Gagarin was placed at the inner edge of the heliopause, the point at which the solar wind can no longer push back the interstellar medium. It was built to test a number of faster-than-light drive principles that theoretically could only occur in interstellar space. The station was nicknamed Jump Zero, as it was intended to be the jumping-off point for humanity's expansion to the galaxy. Shortly after the station was completed, the Prothean ruins were discovered on Mars, rendering the entire effort moot. After struggling to make a profit for a decade, Gagarin was sold to the Systems Alliance in 2159 for a fraction of its construction costs. The Alliance refurbished it as a research and training center for the recently discovered biotic phenomenon. In 2169, the Biotic Acclimation and Training Program was shut down and Gagarin became a general research facility. Its remote location and intentional isolation from the extranet makes it popular for dangerous research, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence. Humanity's first stable AI, the Alliance-sponsored ELIZA, achieved sapience at Gagarin in 2172. Today, Gagarin Station has a permanent population of approximately 9,000. A plan has been proposed to move it to the gravitationally stable Berry center point between Pluto and the Charon relay, allowing it to serve as a gateway facility between the Sol and Arcturus systems. The high cost of safely moving its mass has delayed this indefinitely. In the 22nd century, manipulation of the human genome became commonplace. Techniques of genetic engineering advanced to the point where the rich could custom-build fetuses that grew into stronger, smarter, and more attractive adults. In more pessimistic regions, custom-designing life forms and uplifted animals occupied an ill-defined niche between property and sapient beings. Travel to planets with unique forms of life brought in awareness that the Earth's unique biodiversity could be lost if spliced and hybridized to gain useful alien qualities. The Sodom-Wolcott Genetic Heritage Act was passed by the Systems Alliance Parliament in 2161 and imposed a sharp restriction on conventional uses and genetic engineering, provided government subsidies for beneficial application. Screening and therapy. Most governments provide free assessments and corrective therapy for genetic diseases in prospective parents. This has nearly eliminated everything from cystic fibrosis to nearsightedness. The earlier screenings and therapy is performed, the more comprehensive the results. Though ideally performed on artificial fertilized zygotes in a lab, procedures are available for embryos in the womb and newborns, out of respect for personal beliefs. Improvements of natural human abilities is illegal, but adding a new ability is not. Treatments to improve strength, reflexes, mental acuity, or appearance are permitted. Adding a tail or the ability to digest cellulose is not. Some genetic enhancement is provided for free to Alliance military recruits, but the average citizen must pay for the privilege. The process can take years to reach fruition in an adult. Artificial hybridization of genes from compatible non-human species with human genetic code is illegal. Creation of designed life is broadly illegal and mainly used for terraforming and medical applications, but sentient creatures are heavily regulated, and creation of sapient life is outlawed by both the Systems Alliance and the Council. As the human race expands its territory and raises the general standard of living, demand for industrial resources continue to grow. Many planets, moons, and asteroids contain a wealth of resources, but many systems have barely been charted, let alone thoroughly surveyed. Unmanned probes are one solution, but they are often lost to space hazards, unforeseen circumstances, or theft by salvagers. In recent years, AGES, the Alliance Geological Service, has offered bounties to private individuals or teams willing to perform mineralogical surveys on the frontier. This survey data is made publicly available to further corporate development. Due to the cost of travel and the dangers of operating on hostile worlds, it's rarely a profitable endeavor. Light metals are metals with low atomic weight, often used in the construction of spacecraft and vehicles. Heavy metals, metals with higher atomic weight, are used to construct equipment components. Platinum group elements are particularly useful. Rare earths, most useful material in this category are radioactives or magnets. Gases, various gases are required to support all known forms of sapient life. Some are commonly used as fuel. The Alliance military is of great concern to the galaxy. At first contact with the Turians, they were completely inexperienced. Turian disdain changed to respect after the relief of Shang-Chi, where the humans surprised them with novel technologies and tactics. The human devotion to understanding and adapting to modern space warfare stunned the State Council races. For hundreds of years, they had lived behind secure walls of long-proven technologies and tactics. The Council regards the Alliance as a sleeping giant. Less than 3% of humans volunteer to serve in their military, a lower proportion than any other species. While competent, Alliance soldiers are neither as proficient as the Turians nor as skilled as the Asari. Their strengths lie in fire support, flexibility, and speed. They make up for lack of numbers with sophisticated technological support, VIs, drones, artillery, electronic warfare, an emphasis on mobility and individual initiative. Their doctrine is not based on absorbing and dishing out heavy shocks like the Turians and Krogan. Rather, they bypass enemy strong points and launch deep into their rear, cutting supply lines and destroying headquarters and support units, leaving enemies to wither on the vine. On defense, the human military is a rapid reaction force that lives by Sun Tzu's maxim: he who tries to defend everything defends nothing. Garrisons are intended for scouting rather than combat, avoiding engagement to observe and report on invaders using drones. The token garrisons of human colonies make it easy for alien powers to secure them, for which the Alliance media criticizes the military. However, the powerful fleet stationed at Phase Gate nexuses such as Arcturus are just a few hours or days from any colony within their sphere of responsibility. In the event of an attack, they respond with overwhelming force. Ashore. When a ship's crew leaves the vessel, they are ashore. Though normally used regarding planets, it can refer to boarding a space station. Away. When a ship releases the equipment tethering it to a space station or surface dock, it is away. Aye aye. The proper way to acknowledge an order. If told to attack, the correct response is aye aye sir. If asked, are you proud to be a Marine, the correct response is yes sir. ASAP. An acronym of as soon as possible. Belay. Stop or cease. Bridge. The navigation center of a spacecraft, where the steering is done. Captain's mast. Non-judicial disciplinary proceedings by unit commanders. Combat Information Center. The command center of a spaceship. The CIC is filled with sensor displays to make sense of the chaos of combat. Damage control. The containment and repair of damage to a spaceship. Electronic countermeasures used to avoid enemy sensors, from passive emissions masking to active jamming. Extravehicular activity. Time spent in a pressure suit outside of a vehicle, spacecraft, or station. The flank is the side of a military formation. Since the soldiers are facing elsewhere, an enemy that can attack on the flank can often turn it or roll it up. FNG, freaking new guys, a derisive term for inexperienced personnel. Ground side, the surface of a planet. Helmsman, crew member who pilots a spacecraft. Ladder, light amplified detection and ranging, an active sensor that bounces lasers off an object to determine its bearing and distance. LiDAR has sufficient resolution that the data can be reconstructed into an image. Shore party, spacecraft crew set ashore on official business. Silent running, an old submariner's term used aboard the Normandy to denote when stealth systems are active. SITREP, situation report, an evaluation of the current military situation. Spacer, someone who spent most of their life in space, like me. XO, executive officer, second in command of an Alliance warship. The XO is responsible for administrative and personal matters. Man, these are long. The Alliance used a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank-and-file enlisted personnel, experienced non-commissioned officers, and specially trained officers. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fire squadrons are. This unit of command is imposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, any army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. In ascending order of responsibility, the ranks of the Alliance are enlisted, servicemen 3rd class or private 2nd class, servicemen 2nd class, private 1st class, servicemen 1st class, corporal, NCOs, service chief, gunnery chief, operations chief, officers, 2nd lieutenant, 1st lieutenant, staff lieutenant, lieutenant commander, staff commander, captain or major, rear admiral, general, admiral, fleet admiral. The Alliance Military Vocational Code system clarifies the career path of all serving personnel. The MVC consists of one letter and one number. A soldier's MVC indicates a proficiency, not rank. The letter notes career path. The number indicates level of experience, as indicated by service record, technical scores, and commendations. All 26 letters are used, and numbers run from 1 to 7. It is the letter code for Special Forces personnel. So we are Special Forces N7. Terra Firma is an alliance political party formed after the First Contact War. Its policy agenda is based on the principle that Earth must stand firm against alien influences. This covers a variety of legislation. Recent activities by Terra Firma include opposition to a law requiring high school alien language study, a proposal to increase tariffs on alien imports, and leading a popular movement to mark the First Contact War with a public holiday. Though founded by well-meaning individuals who feared the submersion of native human colonies under a wave of alien vogue, Terra Firma's agenda attracts many jingoists and xenophobes. 2069. Armstrong Outpost at Shackleton Crater becomes the first human settlement on Luna. It's formally founded on July 24th, the 100th anniversary of the first lunar landing. 2103. Lowell City in Eos Chasma becomes the first human settlement on Mars. 2137. Alfred Ashland Energy Corporation demonstrates helium-3 fuel extraction from the atmosphere of Saturn. 2142. Construction of Gagarin Station, or Jump Zero, begins beyond the orbit of Pluto. 48. Prosecutors discover the Prothean ruins at Prometheus Planum on Mars. 2149. Translation of Prothean data leads humans to the Charon Mass Relay, Systems Alliance founded to coordinate exploration and colonization of extrasolar worlds. 2151. Shipping accident at Singapore International Spaceport exposes downwind communities to containers of dust form element 0. Alliance begins construction of Arcturus Station. 2152. Roughly 30% of children born in Singapore after Element Zero exposure suffer from cancerous growths. System Alliance begins settlement of Earth's first extrasolar colony world, the planet Demeter. 2154. Commander Shepard born. 2155. Systems Alliance occupies completed portions of Arcturus Station as headquarters. 2156. Some children of Singapore exhibit minor telekinetic abilities. 2157. Turians encounter human explorers. First Contact War. Occupation and liberation of the human colony Shangxi. 2158. Humans learn potential of biotics. An international effort to track Element Zero exposures begins. Roughly 10% of exposed children show some level of biotic ability. 2160. Systems Alliance Parliament formed. 2167. Human established embassy on Citadel. 2170. Batarian slaves attack the Alliance colony of Mindwar. 2176. During the Skilling Blitz, pirates and slavers attack Elysium, human capital in the Skilling Verge. 2177. Thresher must devour the Alliance colony on Akuz. 2178. In retaliation for the Skilling Blitz, an Alliance fleet wipes out an army of slavers on the moon of Torfin. 2183. Geth, led by rogue Spectre Saren Arterius, attacked the Citadel, ensuing in a battle that cost thousands of lives. 3 weeks later, the SSV Normandy is ambushed and destroyed. Commander Shepard is presumed dead. 2185. Current date. Like the ancient human city of Troy, Ilos is a world known only through second-hand sources. References to Ilos have been found at several other Prothean ruins through direct study of the world, though the direct study of the world is unlikely to occur. Ilos lies in a remote area of the Terminus systems only accessible by the legendary Mu Relay. 4,000 years ago, the Mu Relay was knocked out of position by a supernova and lost. Since then, Ilos and its cluster have been inaccessible. Occasionally, a university will organize an expedition to chart a route to Ilos using conventional FTL drive. These never get beyond the planning stages due to the distance and danger. The journey could take years or decades, passing through the hostile Terminus systems and dozens of unexplored systems. Vermeer is a lush world located on the frontier of the Attican Traverse. Its fast seas and orbital position on the inner life zone have created a wide equatorial band of humid, tropical terrain. Only the political instability of the region has impeded efforts at colonization. Many times the Citadel has opened negotiations to settle Vermeer with the various criminal gangs and petty dictatorships in the nearby Terminus systems. All fell apart due to internal power shifts within the opposing parties. The Citadel has written off the colonization of Vermeer as impossible without significant political charge. The Terminus powers themselves are unlikely to ever settle Vermeer. Most lack the resources to support settlement of a virgin world, finding it more expedient to steal from their neighbors than build for themselves.
The Systems Alliance space vehicle Normandy is a prototype starship created as a joint human and Turian venture. A frigate optimized for reconnaissance missions, the vessel uses state-of-the-art stealth technology. Most ships generate tremendous heat that is easily detectable against the absolute zero background of space. The Normandy, however, temporarily sinks this heat within its hull. Because of exterior hull refrigeration, the ship can travel undetected for hours, or drift passively for days of covert observation. That heat sinking carries the risk of cooking the crew alive if the stored heat is not eventually radiated. Also contributing to stealth is the Normandy's revolutionary Tantalus drive, a Mass Effect core double the standard size. The Tantalus generates mass concentrations that the Normandy falls into, allowing it to move without the use of heat-emitting thrusters.
Faster-than-light drives use Element Zero cores to reduce the mass of the ship, allowing higher rates of acceleration. This effectively raises the speed of light within the Mass Effect field, allowing high-speed travel with negligible relativistic time dilation efforts. Starships still require conventional thrusters, chemical rockets, commercial fusion torch, economy ion engine, or military anti-proton drive. In addition to the FTL drive core, with only a core, a ship has no motive power. The amount of ESO and power required for a drive increases exponentially to the mass being moved and the degree it is being lighted. Very massive ships or very high speeds are prohibitively expensive. If the field collapses while the ship is moving at faster than light speed, the effects are catastrophic. The ship is snapped back to sublight velocity. the enormous excess energy shed in the form of lethal radiate. Blah. My mouth is starting to get tired. New space travelers say, what does it look like outside a ship moving at faster than light speed? Part of the answer can be seen in a simple pane of glass. Light travels slower through glass than it does through open air. Light also moves slower in conventional space than it does in a high-speed mass effect field. This causes refraction. Any light entering at an angle is bent and separated into a spectrum. Objects outside the ship will appear refracted. The greater the difference between the objective and subjective speeds of light, the greater the refraction. As the subjective speed of light is raised within the field, objects outside will appear to redshift, eventually becoming visible only to radio telescope antenna. High-energy electromagnetic sources normally hidden to the eye become visible in the high blue spectrum. As the speed of light continues to be raised, X-ray, gamma-ray, and eventually cosmic ray sources become visible. Stars will be replaced by pulsars, the accretion disks of black holes, quasars, and gamma-ray bursts. To an outside observer, a ship within a mass effect drive envelope appears blue-shifted. If within a field that allows travel at twice the speed of light, any radiation it emits has twice the energy as normal. If the ship is in a field of about 200 times light speed, it radiates visible light as X-rays and gamma rays, and the infrared heat from the hull is blue-shifted up into the visible spectrum or higher. Ships moving at FTL are visible at great distances, though their signature is only propagated at the speed of light. As positive or negative electric impulse current is passed through an FTL drive core, it acquires a static electrical charge. Drives can be operated an average of 50 hours before they reach charge saturation. This change is proportional to the magnitude of mass reduction. A heavier or faster ship reaches saturation more quickly. If the charge is allowed to build, the core will discharge into the hull of a ship. All ungrounded crew members are fried to a crisp. All electronics systems are burned out, and metal bulkheads may be melted and fused together. The safest way to discharge a core is to land on a planet and establish a connection to the ground, like a lightning rod. Larger vessels like dreadnoughts cannot land and must discharge into a planetary magnetic field. The ship passes the charge from the drive core to the exterior armored hull, then dives into the magnetic field. As the hull discharges, sheets of lightning jump away into the field, creating beautiful auroral displays on the planet. The ship must retract its sensors and weapons while dumping charges to prevent damage, leaving it blind and helpless. Discharging at a moon with a weak magnetic field can take days. Discharging into the powerful field of a gas giant may require less than an hour. Deep space facilities such as the Citadel often have special discharge facilities for visiting ships. Heat limits the length and intensity to ship combat. Starships generate enormous heat when they fire high-energy weapons, perform maneuvering burns, or run onboard combat electronics. In combat, warships produce heat more quickly than they can disperse it. As heat builds within a vessel, the crewed spaces become increasingly uncomfortable. Before the heat reaches lethal levels, a ship must win or retreat by entering FTL. After an FTL run, the ship halts, shuts down non-essential systems, and activates the heat radiation gear. Combat endurance varies by ship design and by the battle's location. Battles in the deep cold of interstellar space can go on for some time. Engagements close to a star are brief. Since habitable worlds are usually close to a star, battles over them are frantic. Shells lofted by surface navies crash back to Earth when their acceleration is overwhelmed by gravity and air resistance in space. In space, a projectile has unlimited range. It will keep moving until it hits something. Practical gunnery range is determined by the velocity of the attacker's ordnance and the maneuverability of the target. Beyond a certain range, a small ship's ability to dodge trumps a larger attacker's projectile speed. The longest range combat occurs between dreadnoughts, whose projectiles have the highest velocity but are the least maneuverable. The shortest range combat is between frigates, who have the slowest projectile velocities and highest maneuverability. Opposing dreadnoughts open with a main gun artillery duel at extreme range of tens of thousands of kilometers. The fleets close, maintaining evasive lateral motion while keeping their bow guns facing the enemy. Fighters are launched in an attempt to close the disruptor torpedo range. Cautious admirals weaken the enemy with ranged fire and fighter attacks before committing to close action. Aggressive commanders advance so cruisers and frigates can engage. At long range, the main guns of cruisers become useful. Friendly interceptors engage enemy fighters until the attackers enter the range of ship-based Guardian fire. Dreadnoughts fire from the rear, screened by smaller ships. Commanders must decide whether to commit to a general melee or retreat into FTL. At medium, ships can use broadside guns. Fleets intermingle and it becomes difficult to retreat in order. Ships with damaged kinetic barriers are vulnerable to Wolfpack frigate flotillas that speed through the battle space. Only fighters and frigates at a close knife fight range of 10 or few kilometers. Fighters close their disruptor torpedoes, bringing down a ship's kinetic barriers and allowing it to be swarmed by frigates. Guardian lasers become viable weapons, swatting down fighters and boiling away warship armor. Neither dreadnoughts nor cruisers can use their main guns at close range. Laying the bow of a moving target becomes impossible. Superheated thrusters exhaust become a hazard. Planetary assaults are complicated if the target is a habitable garden world. The attackers cannot approach the defender straight on. The Citadel Conventions prohibit the use of large kinetic impactors against habitable worlds. Straight up battle, any missiles plow into the planet behind the defending fleet. The defenders position themselves between the attackers and the planet. They can fire at will while the attackers risk hitting the planet. Successful assaults on garden worlds hinge upon up-to-date intelligence. Attackers need to determine when the enemy's defenses are, so they may approach from an angle that allows them to fire with no danger of collateral damage. Note this is not necessary on hostile worlds. Once control of orbit has been lost, defensive garrisons dispense into the wilderness. An enemy with orbit superiority can bombard surface forces with impunity. The best option for defenders is to hide and collect reconnaissance in anticipation of relief forces. Given the size of a planet, it's impractical to garrison entire conquered worlds. Fortunately, colonization efforts tend to focus on building up a dozen or fewer areas. Ground forces occupy the spaceports, industrial facilities, and major population centers. The wilderness is patrolled by unmanned and aerial vehicles and satellite reconnaissance. If a defender unit is spotted, air mobile rapid deployment units and satellite artillery are used to pin down and destroy them. The crucial choice of any attack through mass relay is how to divide the fleet to transit. The accuracy of a relay's mass projection depends on the mass being moved and how far it's going. Any long distance and or high mass jump will see drift. That is, a ship must be hundreds of millions of kilometers from its intended drop point, if any direction from the relay. Distance can't be chosen by admirals, but a relay is told how much mass to transit. For example, if told to move 1 million metric tons of mass, the relay will scan the approach corridor, find 4 250,000-ton frigates, and transit them together, maintaining their relative positions. A commander has the option of moving his fleet to one large cohesive formation that may be wildly off position, or breaking it up into many smaller formations that will be individually closer to the intended attack point, but could be widely dispersed. Conservative assault doctrine holds that the fleet should be moved en masse, maintaining concentration of force and reducing the chances of collision. The only time it is reasonably to split up a formation is during blockade running. All races provide their fleets with organic fighter support. Cruisers fit a handful in the space between the interior pressure hulls and exterior armor. Dreadnoughts have a high hangar deck within the hull. Humans who had only recently graduated from surface to space combat were the first to build ships wielding fighters as the main armament. In fleet combat, carriers stay close to clear of battle, launching fighters bearing disruptor torpedoes. Fighters are the primary striking power of the ship. If a carrier enters mass accelerator range of the enemy, things have gone very wrong. It's possible to recover and ream fighters during combat, though many carriers steal the flight deck and try to stay out of the way. The flight deck is essentially a corridor through the armor and into the heart of the vessel. A single well-placed torpedo is enough to gut a carrier. Alliance carriers are named after great leaders, artists, and intellectuals from human history. Cabins give each individual 10 cubic meters of space. On larger vessels, private rooms are common. As ships get smaller, the number of crew packed into single wardrooms increases. Asari prefers shared spaces even on larger vessels, while Krogan territorial instincts make it impossible for them to cohabitate even on the smallest ships. On smaller vessels, hot bunking is the norm. Crew members assigned to different watches share the same bunk. When one gets off duty, he wakes up the person in the bunk. While that crewman is on duty, the first gets his rack time. Spacecraft compartments can be isolated by airtight doors in case of decompression. The cinematic vision of explosive decompression is fiction. Hold compartments either take enough damage that occupants are killed instantly, or leak slowly enough that they are able to reach protective gear. Compartments are equipped with emergency life support apparatus, fireproof plastic bubbles with air bottles. Small when stowed, ELSA comfortably accommodates one individual when inflated. Damage control procedure cuts off first ventilation to burning compartments. Without oxygen to consume, fires die in seconds. The compartment is repressurized afterward for crew recovery. Mass effect fields create an artificial gravity plane below the deck, preventing muscle atrophy and bone loss in 0G. Large vessels arrange their decks perpendicular to their thrust axis. The highest decks are at the bow, and the lowest at the engines. This allows A-grav to work with the inertial effects of thrust. Ships that can land arrange their decks laterally, so the crew can move about while the vessel is on the ground. Warships normally turn off their A-grav systems during combat, reducing the heat generated by systems and increased combat endurance. To provide a point of reference for navigating in zero-G, floors are painted a different color from the walls and ceilings. Cruiserweight starships are the standard combat unit encountered away from large naval bases, the poor, bloody infantry of most fleets. Nimble scouting frigates have neither the punch nor the stamina to stand up to serious combat, and the mighty dreadnoughts are a strategic resource, carefully hoarded and committed to the most critical battles. Cruisers perform routine, independent show-the-flag patrols in settled systems and lead flotillas of frigates in small engagements, such as pirate suppression campaigns. In major fleet engagements, cruiser squadrons support the dreadnought battle lines by screening their flanks against enemy attempts to maneuver for main gun bow shot from their vulnerable broadsides. Alliance cruisers are named after cities of Earth. Fighters are single-pilot combat small craft. They are lightweight enough that they can economically fitted with powerful element zero cores, making them capable of greater acceleration and sharper maneuver than starships. Kinetic barrier shields change starship battles for short, vicious bloodbaths to extended, indecisive, sluggish matches. Only the main gun of a dreadnought could punch a mass accelerator slug through the barriers of an opposing dreadnought. This changed with the development of the fighter-launched mass disruptor torpedo, a short-range weapon that can penetrate kinetic barriers to destroy their projector assemblies. Starship Guardian defenses must be overwhelmed through swarm tactics. Fighter groups that can take heavy casualties pressing their torpedo attacks home. Once fighter-launched torpedoes have crippled enemies' barriers, the mass accelerators on frigates and cruisers can make short work. Interceptors are a type of fighter optimized to attack other fighters, with no ability to damage starships. Interceptors are used to screen friendly units from incoming fighter attacks. Dispersal of heat generated by onboard systems is a critical issue for a ship. If it cannot deal with heat, the crew may be cooked within the hull. Radiation is the only way to shed heat in a vacuum. Civilian ships utilize large, fragile radiator panels that are impossible to armor. Warships use diffuse radiation arrays, ceramic strips along the exterior of the armored hull. These make the ship appear striped to thermographic sensors. Since the arrangement of the stripes depend on the internal configuration of the ship, the patterns of each vessel are unique and striking. On older ships, the DRA stripes can become red or white hot, dubbed tiger stripes or war paint by humans. The glowing DRA has a psychological impact on pirates and irregular forces. Strip radiators are not as effective as panels, but if damaged by enemy fire, the ship only loses a small portion of its total radiation capacity. In most cases, a vessel's DRA alone allows it to cruise with no difficulties. Operations deep within the solar system can cause problems. A ship engaged in combat can produce titanic amounts of heat from maneuvering burns and weapons fire. When fighting in a high-heat environment, warships employ high-efficiency droplet heat sinks. In a droplet system, tanks of liquid sodium and lithium absorb heat within the ship. The liquid is vented from spray nozzles near the bow as a thin sheet of millions of micrometer-scale droplets. The droplets are caught at the stern and reflected into the system. A droplet system can sink 10 to 100 times as much heat as DRA strips. Droplet ships resemble a surface ship's wake through the water. The wake peels out in sharp turns, spreading a fan of droplets as the ship changes vectors and leaves the coolant behind. Light lag prevents sensing in real time at great distances. A ship firing its thrusters at the car on relay can be easily detected from Earth 5.75 light hours away, but Earth will only see the event 5 hours and 45 minutes after it occurs. Due to the light speed limit, defenders can't see enemies coming until they have already arrived. Because there is FTL travel and communications but no FTL sensors, frigates are crucial for scouting and picket duty. Passive sensors are used for long-range detection, while active sensors obtain short-range, high-quality targeting data. Passive sensors include visual, thermographic, and radio detectors that watch and listen for objects in space. A powerful ship emits a great deal of energy. The heat of the life support system, the radiation given off by power plants and electrical equipment, and the exhaust of the thrusters. Starships stand out brilliantly against the near absolute zero background of space. Passive sensors can be used during FTL travel, but incoming data is significantly distorted by the effects of the mass effect envelope and Doppler shift. Active Sensors are radars and high-resolution LiDARs that emit a ping of energy and listen for return signals. LiDARs have a narrower field of view than radar, but LiDAR resolution allows images of detected objects to be assembled. Active sensors are useful when a ship is moving at FTL speeds. A Mass Effect drive core decreases the mass of a bubble of spacetime around the ship. This gives the ship the potential to move quickly, but does not apply any motive power. Ships use the sublight thrusters for motive power at FTL. There are several varieties of thruster, varying in performance versus economy. All ships are equipped with arrays of hydrogen-oxygen reaction control thrusters for maneuvering. Ion drives electrically accelerate charged particles as a reaction mass. They are extremely efficient but produce negligible thrust. They are mainly used for automated cargo barges. Primary commercial engine is a fusion torch, which vents the plasma of the ship's power plant. Fusion torches often offer powerful acceleration at the cost of difficult heat management. Torch fuel is fairly cheap. Helium-3 skimmed from gas giants and deuterium extracted from seawater or cometary bodies. Propellant is hydrogen, likewise skimmed from gas giants. In combat, military vessels require accelerations beyond the capability of fusion torches. Warships' thrusters inject antiprotons into a reaction chamber filled with hydrogen. The matter-antimatter annihilation provides unmatched motive power. The drawback is fuel production. Antiprotons must be manufactured one particle at a time. Most antimatter production is done at massive solar arrays orbiting energetic stars, making them high-value targets at wartime. The exhaust of fusion and antiproton drives is measured in millions of degrees Celsius. Any vessel caught behind them will melt like wax in a blowtorch. Any long-duration interstellar flight consists of two phases, acceleration and deceleration. Starships accelerate to the halfway point of their journey, then flip 180 degrees and apply thrust to the opposite vector, decelerating as they finish the trip. The engines are always operating, and peak speed is attained at the middle of the flight. A warship's kinetic barrier reduces the damage from solid objects, but can do nothing to block Guardian lasers, particle beams, and other forms of directed energy weapons. The inner layer of warship protection consists of ablative armor plating designed to boil away when heated. The vaporized armor material scatters a dew beam, rendering it ineffectual. A scaffold is built around the interior pressure hull, with sheets of ablative armor hung from the structure. Ships typically have multiple layers of armor separating by empty bafflers. Space is often used for cargo storage. Cruisers, which lack the internal space to fit dedicated fighter hangars, store the shipboard fighter complement in the bafflers. It's not unknown for enlisted crew to build illicit alcohol distilleries in some obscure corner of the bafflers, safe from prying eyes. Ship's General Area Defense Integration Anti-Spacecraft Network, Guardian, consists of anti-missile, anti-fighter laser turrets on the exterior hull. Because these are under computer control, the gunnery control officer needs to do little beyond turn the system on and designate targets as hostile. Since lasers move at light speed, they cannot be dodged by anything moving at non-relative speeds. Unless the beam is aimed poorly, it will always hit its target. In the early stages of battle, the Guardian fire is 100% accurate. It's not 100% lethal, but it doesn't have to be. Damaged fighters must break off for repairs. Lasers are limited by diffraction. The beam spreads out, decreasing the energy density the weapon can place on a target. Any high-powered laser is a short-range weapon. Guardian networks have another limitation, heat. Weapon-grade lasers require cooldown time, during which heat is transferred to sinks or radiators. As lasers fire, heat builds within them, reducing damage range and accuracy. Fighters attack in swarms. First few will be hit by Guardian, but as battles continue, the effective laser overheats, allows the attacker to press even closer to the ship. Constant use will burn out a laser. Guardian lasers typically operate at infrared frequencies. Shorter frequencies would offer superior stopping power and range, but degradation of focal arrays and mirrors would make them expensive to maintain, and most prefer mechanical reliability over bleeding-edge performance where lives are concerned. Solarians, however, use near-ultraviolet frequency lasers with 6 times the range, believing they have additional time to shoot down incoming missiles is more important. Lasers are not blocked by the kinetic barrier of capital ships. However, the range of laser limit their use to rare knife fight ranged ship-to-ship combat.
Biotics is the ability of rare individuals to manipulate dark energy and create mass effect fields through the use of electrical impulses from the brain. Intense training and surgically implanted amplifiers are necessary for a biotic to produce mass effect fields powerful enough for practical use. The relative strength of biotic abilities varies greatly among species and with each individual. There are 3 branches of biotics. Telekinesis uses mass-lowering fields to levitate or impel objects. Mass-raising kinetic fields are used to block or pin objects. Spatial distortion uses rapidly shifting mass fields to shred objects. Most organic species are capable of developing biotic abilities, though there are risks involved. Biotics are the result of an in utero exposure to element 0. This usually causes fatal cancers in the victim, but in rare cases, it coalesces into nodules within the fetus's developing nervous system. When subjected to an electrical current, the rare material dubbed element 0, or ESO, emits a dark energy field that raises or lowers the mass of all objects within it. This mass effect is used in countless ways, from generating artificial gravity to manufacturing high-strength construction materials. It is most prominently used to enable faster-than-light space travel. ESO is generated when solid matter, such as a planet, is affected by the energy of a star going supernova. The material is common in the asteroid debris that orbits neutron stars and pulsars. These are dangerous places to mine, requiring extensive use of robotics, telepresence, and shielding to survive the incredible radiation from the dead star. Only a few major corporations can afford the setup costs required to work these primary sources. Humanity discovered refined element 0 at the Prothean Research Station on Mars, allowing them to create mass effect fields and develop FTL travel. Element 0 can increase or decrease the mass of a volume of space-time when subjected to an electrical current. With a positive current, mass is increased. With a negative current, mass is decreased. The stronger the current, the greater the magnitude of the dark energy mass effect. In space, low-mass fields allow FTL travel and inexpensive surface-to-orbit transit. High-mass fields create artificial gravity and push space debris away from vessels. In manufacturing, low-mass fields permit the creation of evenly blended alloys, while high-mass compaction creates dense, sturdy construction materials. The military makes extensive use of mobility-enhancing technologies, with mass effect utilizing fighting vehicles standard frontline issue in most military forces. Mass effect fields are also essential in the creation of kinetic barriers or shields to protect against enemy fire. Mass relays are feats of Prothean engineering advanced far beyond the technology of any living species. They are enormous structures scattered throughout the stars and can create corridors of virtually mass-free space, allowing instantaneous transit between locations separated by years or even centuries of travel using conventional FTL drives. Primary mass relays can propel ships thousands of light years, often from one spiral arm of the galaxy to another. However, they have fixed one-to-one connections. A primary relay connects to one other primary relay and nowhere else. Secondary relays can only propel ships across a few hundred light years. However, they are omnidirectional. A secondary relay can send a ship to any other relay within its limited range. There are many dormant primary relays whose corresponding twins have not yet been located. These are left inactive until their partner is charted, as established civilizations are unwilling to blindly open a passage that might connect them to a hostile species. Omni-tools are handheld devices that combine a computer microframe, sensor analysis pack, and manufacturing fabricator. Versatile and reliable, an Omni-tool can be used to analyze and adjust the functionality of most standard equipment, including weapons and armor, from a distance. The fabrication module can rapidly assemble small three-dimensional objects from common reusable industrial plastics, ceramics, and light alloys. This allows for field repairs and modifications to most standard items, as well as the reuse of salvaged equipment. Omni-tools are standard issue for soldiers and
Biotics manipulate mass effect fields using dozens of element zero nodules within their nervous systems that react to electrical stimuli from the brain. Amplifiers allow biotics to synchronize the nodules so they can form fields larger or strong enough for practical use. Amplifiers can improve a specific discipline or talent. An implant is a surgically embedded interface port in which amps are plugged in. On humans, the implant is usually placed at the base of the skull for convenient access, though the user must be careful to keep it free of contaminants. Implant ports can fit a variety of amps, and there is a growing market for modifications and add-ons. The finest quality implants and amps are manufactured by Asari artisans, but the Alliance's L3 implants, first deployed in 2170, are a significant step forward. Biotics possess extraordinary abilities, but they must live with minor inconveniences. The most obvious issue is getting adequate nutrition. Creating biotic mass effects takes such a toll on metabolism that active biotics deploy ravenous appetites. The standard Alliance combat ration for soldiers is 3,000 calories per day. Biotics are given 4,500, as well as a cantina potent energy drink for quick refreshment after hard combat. Another issue is electrical charge. Electricity accumulated in Starship drive cores must be discharged, and so must the electricity in a biotic user. Biotics are prone to small static discharges when they touch metal. Unfortunately, human biotics also face suspicion and persecution, beginning with the popular misconception that they can read and control minds. Biotics symbolize the dehumanization of mankind to people philosophically and religiously opposed to gene modification and cybernetics. Militaries are the only organization that always welcomes biotics, offering them huge recruitment incentives. Biotic implants and amplifiers only provide the potential to create coherent mass effect fields. Whether biotics can actually do so is largely determined by their training. Biotics must develop conscious control over their nervous systems, sending specific electrical impulses to the element zero nodules embedded in their nerves. They are taught to use their implants and amps with biofeedback devices and physical mnemonics. Specific gestures or muscle movements fire the proper sequence of nerves to activate certain skills. Codex Industries pioneered biotic training with the Biotic Acclimation and Temperance Training Program. Although BOT did not achieve the desired results, many techniques taught are still used today. Many human think tanks are trying to develop some form of biotic super soldier. Most are benign efforts to create more flexible troops. Others, less publicly known, are unapologetically attempts to create Nietzschean supermen. Real-time communication is possible thanks to networks of expensive mass relay comm buoys that can daisy-chain a transmission via lasers. Comm buoys are maintained in a pattern built outward from each mass relay. The buoys are little more than a cluster of primitive miniature mass relays. Each individual buoy is connected to a partner on another buoy in the network, forming a corridor of low mass space. Tight beam communication lasers are piped through these tubes of FTL space, allowing virtually instantaneous communication to anywhere on the network. The network connects across regions by communication lasers through the mass relay. With this system, the only communication delay is the light lag between the source or destination of the closed buoy. So long as all parties remain within half a light second of buoys, seamless real-time communication are possible. Since buoys are maintained in all traveled spaces, most enjoy unlimited instant communication. Ships only suffer communication lag when operating off established deep space routes around uninhabited outer system, gas giants, or other unsettled areas. During wartime, comm buoy networks are the first target of attack. Once the network is severed, it can take anywhere from weeks to years to get a message out of a contested system. In systems where a buoy network has not yet been built or has been destroyed, rapid communication means ferrying information through high-speed courier ships and unmanned data drones. While comm buoys allow rapid transmission, there is a finite amount of bandwidth available. Given that trillions of people may be trying to pass a message through the given buoy at a time, access to the network is parceled out of priority tiers. The Citadel Council inspectors are absolute priority. If they're using all the bandwidth, everyone else must wait. Individual governments and the militaries enjoy the next highest tier. During wartime, civilian communications can suffer hours or even days of lag. Intelligence agencies study ping time through various systems to predict military buildup. Below the government's and military, bandwidth priority is sold to the highest bidder. Media conglomerates, particularly headline news networks, purchase higher priority to provide their viewers with timely information. Corporations that require timely information and respond capabilities, like financial institutions and investment firms, also invest heavily in priority access. The funds acquired through sales of bandwidth are used to maintain and expand the communication infrastructure. While everyone with a computer has guaranteed free and unlimited access to the extranet, they are last in line for bandwidth and may have to wait for their request to be processed. Bandwidth resale corporations use investment capital to purchase blocks of high-priority access made available by paid subscription. As the population of the galaxy increases and new worlds are settled, timely access for home users and frontier settlements for underdeveloped communications infrastructures is a growing problem. To ameliorate bandwidth issues, a sophisticated array of data caches and virtual intelligence search engine programs are available. When a user submits a query, it's the first routed to the data cache of the colony or star system. As the user's search agent VI collaborates mountains of locally stored data to find the desired material. If the information is not available locally, the query is passed along to neighboring systems, and then outward to an expanding network. VI search agents in those systems replicate the search. If the desired information is found, it's compressed into a burst file and queued for transmission to the source system. Burst is assigned a priority based on the number of queries for it. The greater the number, the higher the priority. When a new solar system is first connected to the net, a selection of the most popular data is installed locally. Though storage hardware is cheap, the capacity required to hold all the data produced every day by trillions of people on hundreds of worlds is now trivial. It's not economical to store local copies of all data available on obscure topics just in case. As colonists mature, older and less popular chunks of data filter into them as a result of queries and are placed in the local archives. Searches for obscure topics are increasingly likely to produce instant results as the archive grows. An artificial intelligence is a self-aware computing system capable of learning and independent decision-making. Creation of a conscious AI requires adaptive code, a slow, expensive education, and a specialized quantum computer called a blue box. An AI cannot be transmitted across a communication channel or a computer network. Without its blue box, an AI is no more than data files. Loading these into a new blue box will create a new personality, as variations on the quantum hardware and runtime create unpredictable variations. The Geth serve as a cautionary tale against the dangers of rogue AI, and in Citadel space they are technically illegal. Advocacy groups argue, however, that an AI is a living conscious entity deserving the same rights as organics. They argue that continued use of the term artificial is institutionalized racism on the part of organic life. The term synthetic is considered the politically correct alteration. Okay. A virtual intelligence is an advanced form of user interface software. VIs use a variety of methods to simulate natural conversation, including an audio interface and an avatar personality to interact with. Although VI can provide a convincing emulation of sentience, they are not self-aware, nor can they learn or take independent action. VRs are used as operating systems on commercial and home computers. Minimal VI agents are also available. Agents are compact and specialized. Some serve as personal secretaries, filtering calls and scheduling meetings based on user-defined priorities. Others are advanced search engines, propagating themselves across the extranet to collate user-acquired data. Commercial VIs and a variety of stock personalities are available on any software retailer. Boutique firms and hobbyists also buy unique VIs to personal specifications. Although software emulation of living personalities is illegal, reconstruction of famous historical figures are common. The standard credit was established by the Citadel Unification Banking Act as the currency for interstellar trade. The credit has a managed floating exchange rate, calculated in real time by the central bank to maintain the average value of all participating currencies. Some regional currencies are worth more than a credit, and some less. Hard currency can be stolen or counterfeited, so electronic fund transfers are the norm. More importantly, physical transactions cannot be easily tracked, making them ideal for tax evasion or the purchase of illegal goods. When the Alliance ran the Citadel, its various nation treasuries were linked into the credit network. A human with a bank code of Mexican pesos, Japanese yen, or Indian rupees can purchase any items priced in credits at fair market value. All economies that participate in the credit network are required to price items in both local currency and credits. Drones are small robots used to support and supplement organic soldiers on the battlefield. They have no artificial intelligence of any kind, but follow fixed, minimally adaptive programs. Most varieties employ mass effect levitation to improve mobility. All modern armies rely on versatile fleets of drones for routine soldiering. The use of drone is non-critical duty, keep manpower needs down, and reduce casualties and low-intensity conflicts. Less advanced races and cultures with less sensitivity to casualties have correspondingly fewer drones in their inventory. Drones are of little use to conventional open field battle, as they are poorly armed and armored. In addition, combat drones, support drones are used to assist organic units in the field. Reconnaissance drones are small, stealthy craft that screen combat units in the field and warn commanders when enemies are spotted. Electronic warfare drones supplement battlefield technicians, serving as mobile jammers and ELINT. Military and electronic gathering platforms. Military and civilian police utilize dazzler drums equipped with powerful strobe lights to disorient and subdue intruders using non-lethal force. Drone formations are officially referred to as wings. Common soldiers often refer to friendly formations as flocks and enemy formations as swarms. Modern combat hard suits have a triple canopy of protection: shields, armor, and self-repairs. The outermost layer is created through kinetic barrier emitters, which detect objects incoming at a high rate of speed and generally deflecting shields provided they have enough energy in their power cells. If a bullet or other incoming object gets past the barrier, it contends with the more traditional body armor. A sealed suit of non-porous ballistic cloth provides kinetic and environmental protection, reinforced by lightweight composite ceramic plates in areas that either don't need to flex or require additional coverage, such as the chest and head. When armor is hit by directed energy weapons, the plates boil away or ablate rather than burning the wearer. The last level of protection is provided by the suit's microframe computers, which input detectors are woven throughout the fabric. These manage the self-healing system, which finds rents in the fabric and assume any such tear would ruin the flesh underneath, seals the area off with sterile, non-conductive metagel. This staunches minor wounds and plugs holes in the suit that could prove fatal in vacuum or toxic environments. Soldiers are not always fond of the squish skin that oozes gel on them at a moment's notice, but fatalities have dropped sharply since the system was implemented. Kinetic barriers, commonly called shields, provide protection against most mass accelerator weapons. Whether on a starship or shield soldier's suit of armor, the basic principle remains the same. Kinetic barriers are repulsive mass effect fields projected from tiny emitters. These shields safely deflect small objects traveling at rapid velocities. This affords protection from bullets and other dangerous projectiles, but still allow the user to sit down without knocking away their chair. The shielding afforded by kinetic barriers does not protect against extremes of temperature, toxins, or radiation. A mass accelerator propels a solid metal slug using precisely controlled electromagnetic attraction and repulsion. The slug is designed to squash or shatter on impact, increasing the energy it transfers to the target. If this were not the case, it would simply punch a hole right through, doing minimal damage. Accelerator design was revolutionized by Element Zero. A slug lightened by a mass effect field can be accelerated to greater speeds, permitting projectile velocities that were previously unattainable. If accelerated to a high enough velocity, a simple paint chip can impact with the same destructive force as a nuclear weapon. However, mass accelerators produce recoil equal to their impact energy. This is mitigated somewhat by the mass effect fields that rounds are suspended within, but weapon recoil is still a prime limiting factor on slug velocity. Modern infantry weapons are micro-scaled mass accelerators using mass-reducing fields and magnetic force to propel miniature slugs to lethal speeds. Nearly every gun on the battlefield is laden with features, from targeting auto-assist to projectile shavers that can generate thousands of rounds of ammunition from a small internal block of metal. It was long thought that personal weapons had plateaued in performance, but the Geth proved all theories wrong. Mathematically reviewing their combat logs, the Geth found that in an age of kinetic barriers, most firefights were won by the side who could put the most rounds down range the fastest. But combatants were forced to deliberately shoot slower to manage waste heat, or pause as their weapons vented. To eliminate this inefficiency, the Geth adapted detachable heat sinks known as thermal clips. While organic arms manufacturers were initially doubtful this would produce a net gain, a well-trained soldier can eject and swap thermal clips in under a second. Faced with superior enemy firepower, organic armies soon followed the Geth's lead, and today's battlefields are littered with these thermal clips. And that's how we got the ammo system.
Metagel is a common medicinal salve used by paramedics, EMTs, and military personnel. It combines several useful applications: a local anesthetic, disinfectant, and clotting agent all in one. Once applied, the gel is designed to grip tight to flesh until subjected to a frequency of ultrasound. It is sealable against liquids, most notably blood, as well as contaminants and gases. The gel is a genetically engineered bioplasm created by the CERTA Foundation, a medical technology megacorp based on Earth. Technically, Metagel violates council laws against genetic engineering, but to date, it has proved far too useful to ban.
There! We've done it! We've gone through everything! That was basically a recap of every single entry from the first game, I think.
I wouldn't keep the Illusive Man waiting.
Hey, I just read like an entire library of stuff.
The Illusive Man is waiting for you in the other room.
What? Fine, I'm gonna customize my gear. Mando. Armor. Did my game literally just free? Oh, I was gonna say, it better not have. Yeah, Dragon Age. Oh, I'm rotating. Whoops. Yeah, no. That's what I did for. Helmets. Right now I don't really have anything else to customize. Other than the material if I wanted. But we do have color. I already have an idea in mind. I give you Iron Shepard. There. Now he's Iron Man.
Commander Shepard.
Illusive Man. I thought we'd be meeting face to face.
Unnecessary precaution. Not unusual for people who know what you and I know.
You might be the reason I'm still alive, but that doesn't mean I trust you.
You need to put your personal feelings aside. Humanity is up against the greatest threat of our brief existence.
The Reapers.
Good to see your memory's still intact. How are you feeling?
You need to earn the right to ask me those kinds of questions.
Cerberus isn't as evil as you believe. You and I are on the same side. We just have different methods.
Cut to the chase. What are the Reapers doing that made you decide to bring me back?
We're at war. No one wants to admit it, but humanity is under attack. While you've been sleeping, entire colonies have been disappearing. Human colonies. We believe it's someone working for the Reapers, just as Saren and the Geth aided Sovereign. You've seen it yourself. You bested all of them. That's just one reason we chose you.
Fighting a war doesn't seem like Cerberus. Why are you involved?
We're committed to the advancement and preservation of humanity. If the Reapers are targeting us, trying to wipe us out, Cerberus will stop them. If we wait for politicians or the Alliance to act, no more human colonies will be left.
Sovereign was trying to harvest all life in the galaxy. Why would the Reapers target a few human colonies?
Hundreds of thousands of colonists have vanished. I'd say that fits the definition of harvesting. Nobody's paying attention because it's random, and the attacks occur in remote locations. I don't know why they've suddenly targeted humanity. Maybe you got their attention when you killed one of them.
If this is a threat against humanity, you need to mobilize the Alliance.
They suffered substantial losses fighting Sovereign. They're rebuilding, still stretched too thin to waste resources verifying the Reaper threat. Blaming the abductions on mercs and pirates is easier and more convenient.
You could have trained an entire army for what you spent to bring me back.
You're unique, not just in ability or what you've experienced, but in what you represent. You stood for humanity at a key moment. You're more than a soldier. You're a symbol. And I don't know if the Reapers understand fear, but you killed one. They have to respect that.
If what you say is true, if the Reapers are behind this, I'd consider helping you.
I'd be disappointed if you accepted any of this without seeing for yourself. I have a shuttle ready to take you to Freedom's Progress, the latest colony to be abducted. Miranda and Jacob will brief you.
Miranda killed Wilson in cold blood. Jacob's just a gun for hire. You expect me to trust them?
Wilson was one of my best agents, but he was a traitor. Miranda did exactly what I expected of her, and she saved your life in more ways than one. Jacob's a soldier, one of the best. He's never fully trusted me, but he's always been honest about it. You'll be just fine with them. For now.
Is this a volunteer job, or am I being volunteered?
You always have a choice, Shepard. If you don't find the evidence we're both looking for, we can part ways. But first, go to Freedom's Progress. Find any clues you can. Who's abducting the colonies? Do they have any connection to the Reapers? I brought you back. It's up to you to do the rest.
Level up! What else do we got? Uh-huh. More entries. Well, guess what? First, I'm gonna do squad. 3 points. Journal. Investigate the missing colonies. Go to Freedom's Progress. Okay, time for an actual save. I've already been playing for 3 hours, 2 of which were reading the Codex. So, this is a good place to end for now. If you liked this video, let me know in the comments. If you really liked it, press that cute little like button. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Luke Dog, and I'll see you next time. Happy holidays.